Hey everybody, Marky here from John 1911, and this is going to be episode 22 of the Armory chat. So something real quick that came up. Well, it's been coming up on and off in different ways, and I finally put two and two together and figured out what the problem was. It seems to be that there's a lot of people out there that own rifles, and they really don't understand how to optimally bolt things to that rifle. Now, I saw this a couple weeks ago on a range. What had happened was there was a gentleman, he was shooting, and he let me see if I can open this up a little bit. He was shooting, and he was complaining that his scope was messed up, and I was looking at his setup, and what was happening, he had bolted his scope to his rifle, which obviously you want to do, but he was not aware of the basic principle of physics. And for those, and I'm not being negative, or let me get a different piece here. I'm not being negative or calling anybody out, or there's just a lot of people that may not understand this basic concept when it comes to just physics. It's called objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Objects in rest tend to stay at rest. There we go. And what had happened was he had his scope mounted up to his rifle, which is good. I have to superpose all this on top of each other to keep the different planes open so it makes sense for people. And what was happening was his scope was moving on its rails, and it wasn't actually the scope in the rings that was moving inside the rings. See, I'm holding that so it looks like it's inside the rings. That isn't what was moving. What was moving were his rings. Now, a basic this applies to whether you're hanging lights on your gun, hanging lights on your rifle, or it can even apply to mounting a bipod or anything, especially for like 1913 rails. If the rule of thumb is, what you want to do is when you put a ring or a mount into a pick rail, 1913 rail, before you tighten it down, what you want to do is you want to push the ring forward, and that's where a lot of people get this messed up. Because what happens is, if you're shooting like a 223 or 22, or something, an 18-pound rifle that maybe even a 308 18-pound rifle that may not translate into a lot of recoil into the gun, so you may be getting away with it your whole life. But what's happening is the gun recoils, everything goes back. Well, objects in motion, objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Objects in rest tend to stay at rest. So as the rifle recoils backwards, the rings want to go forwards. Okay? So if you have your rings, if there's room in your pick rail or any device, and you have that device sitting, here's a better way to, if let's pretend these rings are the Picatinny rails. Pretend this is an expanded pick rail. That's what this is, just zoomed in. If your item is sitting in the middle of the rail, as the rifle recoils, things can start to move around. If it's sitting on the rail behind it, as the rifle recoils, it can slowly start to work its way loose. If you keep your items pushed towards the front of the rifle or the front Picatinny rail, they tend to stay together. Now, there's also something, harmonics and vibration. So You know, and that's the other thing that will burn you is, you know, guns. If you shoot guns a lot, they tend to shoot themselves loose. Anyone that's ever had a screw back out knows that didn't back out probably under the direction of the recoil impulse. That backed out because of the vibration of the entire system. So you may get away with it with some of these you know, cantilever type scope mounts. But so what was happening was one of his rails, this particular shooter, one of his rails had worked its way forward. That had caused the scope to move in the mount, and then his stuff was way off, and you know, it was kind of a big mess. So and this came up, and how I put this together is I had a guy ask me. He wanted to know about mounting devices to his as an AR or something, an AR type rifle. And I'm not going to single out any particular mounting system. It wasn't a 1913 system. It was I mean, you know, whatever. There's different ones. And so he had a different. He could place this mounting system this way or flip it in the other way, and he wasn't sure which way was the right way. And I'm not going to say I know what the right way is. I'm just going to say I know what I'm going to do. It's going to be the same deal, okay? Lights, lasers, you know, offset iron sights. If you always, it doesn't matter what the mounting system is, you always want to kind of put it in the system and push it forward, then bolt the system down. Okay, bolt everything down, because it's still the same principle that the gun is, you know, is beating against, the leverage is beating against that mount. Now, the question this guy had, and it was a legitimate question, and you know, the guy's thinking, his question was, he goes, well, if I'm going to mount my light on my rifle, and his justification for maybe wanting to do it the opposite way was, if his light's on his rifle and he comes through a door or he runs into something, he was afraid that it was going to knock the light off of his mounting system. And you know, that is conceivably true. Now, some people would say that could be a hang-up point. You'd rather have it give than have it, you know, hang up. My argument would be, you know, look, you are going to run into stuff. You're going to collide, and people just do. You know, it's like, I love those people that quote never fall down and never drop guns. Yeah, people that never drop guns, never fall down, never trip, never bump into anything, and I've yet to meet one of those guys in the real world. You're going to run into stuff. So, but what's going to happen more often, especially if you have a gun that you're shooting a lot? Are you going to run into 100 door jams, or are you going to put 100 rounds through your rifle, or 1,000 rounds, or 5,000 rounds? This is going to be an issue first before, you know, knocking your light off in a door jam. So that's pretty much it. This wraps up the Armory Chat episode 22. When you mount anything into a 1913 rail, push it forward, bolt it down, clamp it down, tighten it down, you'll be good to go. So now you know. Anyway, thank you for your time, and everybody have a good day.